The liberal media is hammering Joe Biden for snubbing an audience of 100 million Americans and skipping the traditional Super Bowl interview for the second year in a row. It seems like a no-brainer. Bring your re-election message to a massive audience of potential voters. But some in the press say that the big baby in the White House just can't handle it.
I couldn't figure out that Super Bowl interview, passing on that.
He can really get his message out to an audience just sitting, waiting for him, waiting for his message, is telling. Is it because he can't handle it? If he is not able to follow the questions, if his staff is worried that he can connect the dots and find the word that he's looking for, that's a problem.
He's giving up an opportunity to talk to millions of people this Sunday, turning down a pre-Super Bowl interview.
He will never have that size audience again and make his case.
But maybe there's a good reason why the White House wants to hide Biden. It would be a total disaster. Joe Biden has been racking up some really embarrassing gaffes lately, like forgetting the name of the terror group Hamas, and claiming to have met with a French president who died almost 30 years ago.
There's been a response from the opposition, but yes, I'm sorry, from Hamas. Right after I was elected, I went to what they call a G7 meeting, and I sat down and I said, "America's back." And Mitterrand from from France, looked at me and said, you know, how long are you back for?
Oh, wow. Even the White House is having a hard time defending Biden's embarrassing mix-ups.
How is President Biden ever going to convince the 3/4 of voters who are worried about his physical and mental health that he is okay, even though in Las Vegas he told a story about recently talking to a French president who died in 1996?
I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole with you, sir.
What is the rabbit hole?
Go ahead.
He said he talked to Mitterrand.
Go ahead. You saw the president in Vegas, in California. You've seen the president in South Carolina. You saw him in Michigan. I'll just leave it there.
But there's one president who would gladly do the Super Bowl interview. Donald Trump says he would be happy to replace Biden and that it would be ratings gold. But so far, the chairman of CBS Sports, which is hosting the game, is shutting down the idea. Okay, Dana, this year's Super Bowl, they say, is estimated to bring in almost 200 million viewers, the most ever.
Yeah, you think of all those Swiftie fans that are going to be watching.
Yeah, and what a missed opportunity for re-election efforts.
It is. So I've said yesterday, I'm okay if this tradition goes away completely. President Trump didn't do it in 2018, and I think that's probably, if I recall correctly, it was like unlikely to be a fair interview in his mind. Biden gets very fair interviews. In fact, reporters even help him out by saying that, you know, it's Hamas, or the Hamas is who we're talking about. And I get that. I was just telling Greg, I did that in school all the time. If I would have sympathy for people who couldn't come up with the answer, so I would whisper it and try to help them. You shouldn't really do that for a president of the United States who's doing an interview, especially when 23% of people in the NBC poll said that Biden has the necessary physical and mental strength to be president, 23%. So I understand also that every interview is a risk opportunity. Mm-hmm. So if there's a high risk, but there's also really high reward if you do it well. So imagine if he came out, he did the 3-minute interview, as Jesse was saying. He nails it. It was like, wow. So all those people who are worried that he doesn't have the mental strength and capacity can maybe put that aside and think about the issues. But I think the White House has calculated that the risk is so great that he won't be able to nail it, and it could even be disastrous, that it would do irreparable harm. And if they want to get him reelected, they'll keep him off big interviews like that.
You know, Jesse, we first heard that they had this kind of saran wrap approach. You know, they were going to keep him wrapped up and not let him out. But for the past couple of weeks, they've been saying, you know, Joe's going to come out, Joe's going to come out. But I think this latest Mitterrand and Hamas gaffes, do you think that they've decided to go in the other direction? Because there's too much risk to an unscripted interview.
Yeah, I mean, that would have second thoughts after I see dead people. I'd stay in Delaware the next weekend. The media is there to help Democrats, not hide Democrats. This is a business. Donald Trump made the careers of dozens of people in the press. Joe Biden is destroying the press. Have you seen all of these companies are laying off thousands of media people? Thousands of them don't have jobs anymore. When you had Trump as president, you had action, you had access, you had excitability. People got shows on cable. They wrote books. They became millionaires. That's because Trump engaged. It's no fun to cover a campaign when the president doesn't campaign. These people have seen real campaigns. Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, some of the most vigorous and active bully pulpit exploiters there ever was. And then you have a guy at a slumber party. At first in 2020 is like, okay, we played along and hit him because of COVID and Trump was the devil. They're not going to do that again. They're not going to hide him when there's no COVID. So I think you're seeing the media start to be torn a little bit. You see two business reporters saying, what's this guy doing? And you're also going to see CBS strike back. CBS isn't going to be happy that the sitting president just dissed them on Super Bowl Sunday. They're going to start talking about this. Yep. They need somebody to go on their shows. You can't have a president who's a Democrat and all these Democrat anchors have no one to talk to. This is a problem. You're going to see it start shifting pretty soon. It can't go on much more like this.
You know, Tulsi, I mean, if the president can't handle an interview during the Super Bowl or to be played during the Super Bowl, what do you think he's saying or speaking to when he's talking to Xi Jinping or when he's talking to Putin? Or does he talk to them?
I think, good question. but really, to me, this is such a missed opportunity because, again, this is the Super Bowl. Ideally, you have a relationship between the president, commander-in-chief, and the American people and voters. And this is an opportunity to connect with a couple 100 million people in this country. You know, he either doesn't feel connected or maybe he thinks that football fans are MAGA Trump supporters. I don't know what it is, but it is an incredibly missed opportunity to be able to speak directly to the American people. And I think it is a sign that his handlers don't trust him and they will look to the basement strategy that he used last time because they don't want him to be held to account for his failures to the American people, whether it's border security, rampant crime, inflation, increasing cost of living. These are the issues that he needs to be confronted on. And I think they're afraid. They're afraid to put him in the spotlight.
All right. Did CBS make a mistake in not entertaining Trump's decision or request?
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to get to that in a second. But this interview is perfect for Joe because it's a no-brainer. And we showed like this montage of all of his gibberish, and we call them gaffes. Those are not gaffes because gaffes suggest that they are rare or unusual. What is rare and unusual is when he makes sense. It's funny, when you mention gaffe, that's when you can actually understand what Joe is saying. And what kind of questions do they think are going to trip him up? What's your name? I mean, what are they worried about? When they ask him what's his favorite Super Bowl snack, are they worried that he's going to say Francois Mitterrand? Look, they could do it at his house. Jill could be next to him, a medical professional, right? Literally, he has to be conscious for 3 minutes, right? Surely there's a drug for that. Call Hunter. He's got something lying around. Maybe the White House still has that baggie of Coke in the evidence room. Who knows? But it's weird. It's like Joe not doing the Super Bowl interview sends a horrible message that's far worse than if he did it and screwed up because it's saying, I can't do it. It's like ducking an interview with a Magic 8-ball. Imagine the only way to sell a product is by hiding it from the public. You know, it's like imagine doing merch for your band and your T-shirt is completely blank because you don't want them to hear the music. It's crazy. So I think they have a great opportunity to take Trump on his offer, and we mentioned it here first. But the interview, if it doesn't happen, Trump should do it anyway. And you know who with? Me, you, Donald. We do a halftime interview. You pick the place. We'll do it. We'll do it. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It'll be great. Just counter program. That's what you're known for. I'm not doing anything Sunday. I don't even know who's playing. I think they're setting the stage for the big reveal, which is no debates with Trump.
Absolutely.
Right. That's what this is.
I have to say also, if you had asked me, and I'm fairly lucid, who was the French president in the 1990s? I'm like, I don't know, starts with an M. I might have been able to come up with Mitterrand. I don't know. So that was a real weird throwback.
And I still don't know what the rabbit hole is.
Yeah.
The KJP was talking about.
What else
rabbit
is she
hole?
going to say?
Yeah, well.
I don't know what else she could possibly say.
Well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.